right, I'm here with the one and only Brett Wilson at the UCP convention in Calgary. So we just had the Fair Deal panel. What did you think of the panel and what do you think of the plan?
I think the effort to look at a greater degree of what I call independence rather than separation is a thoughtful and a reasonable approach to where we go next. If we can't get independence, then I think the separatist movement will have some wings, but I really hope that we can build a stronger Alberta inside the Confederation of Canada.
If the Fair Deal were to go through, do you think that that would be enough for people who are very skeptical about the Canadian Confederation? Do you think it would be enough to keep people who might otherwise be separatists in Canada?
If Fair Deal gives us a sense of independence, then I'm happy. Again, we don't need separation to have a thoughtful and working country. But what we need in parallel is a proper pipeline strategy, an export strategy, so that we can start to attack the coal consumption in China with our natural gas. That creates jobs, creates opportunities in Alberta. Bringing the federal, right now, federally regulated Canada Pension Plan under Alberta purview, that creates jobs and opportunities in Alberta. There's a lot of what I'd call consolidation. It's creating our own police force creates jobs that are a little more structured around creating a sense of who we are as Albertans. So I'm actually fairly hopeful that if we can move down a path of creating that sense of independence, a sense of self-determination, as we hear Quebec often use, I think we've moved a long way towards meeting the needs of a lot of Albertans.
Justin Trudeau kind of embodies Canada, right? He's the son of a prime minister. His father was the most famous prime minister. And yet in this last election, we saw a resurgence of the Bloc in Quebec and a separatist movement there, and this new Wexit movement pop up in Alberta. So what do you think that says that two different parts of the country want to separate under this iconic Canadian prime minister? What's going on?
Well, there's large senses, ever escalating sense of regionalism happening, and certainly within Quebec we're seeing that again. And really the Alberta, Saskatchewan, northern BC, and I'm very heavily invested in the Yukon. There's a lot of unhappy campers in the Yukon, and then I'm very close and working strategically with a number of First Nations, many of whom are unhappy with this sense of regionalism that's been created by the ability of this prime minister to tear apart Confederation. We're not doing a very good job of keeping Canada together as a whole, and I do blame one man for that effort.
Why do you think he got reelected then?
It stuns me when I sit down and talk with my peers in Ontario, even the greater GTA, and they go, we don't know. We voted in favor of something that was more thoughtful. So whether it's immigration or a vote for and in favor of immigrants or by immigrants, but the Liberal Party managed to land a lot of seats, and quite frankly, it doesn't make sense. So whether there was interference, don't know, maybe Russia was poking around, but we don't know why such an illogical outcome. And again, I just fall back on logic. It's not about who's right and who's wrong. It's about what's fair. And that's all I'm after for Canada.
And you look at the oil and gas industry in the U.S. and it's booming. Things are going really well in North Dakota. And yet you just go, a couple miles north and things are just totally different. So how is it that the United States can be doing so well at the same time as their neighbor is suffering so much?
The United States has grown their oil production over the last 15 years by a factor of 4. Canada's up 50%. That sounds like a lot. We're 3.5 going to 4.5 million barrels. The U.S. has gone from 3 or 4 up to 11 or 12. I actually am significantly invested in a U.S. oil play that runs out of Calgary. And because it's a Canadian-based company, it's trading at 1 times cash flow. Cheapest oil investment ever. It makes no sense at all. But the U.S., guess what? They have export capacity. First thing they wanted was self-actualization. They now produce enough oil that they can say, screw you, to Saudi Arabia and all the Middle Eastern interests. So because they don't import oil anymore, they're a net exporter. We should be a net exporter, but we're a net importer as a result of what happens in Eastern Canada because we don't supply our own. We should be exporting more than we import. We don't. We failed miserably. The U.S. got its act together, and all due respect to Mr. Trump, I don't want my kids spending time with him, but as a businessman, he's actually created some momentum that the U.S. is benefiting from.
Thank you so much. If you like what we're doing, head on over to tnc.news and subscribe to our newsletter.